here this evening to cut through the fake news filter and to speak straight to the American people. Fake news. Fake news.
That's a little bit of the taste last night in northeastern Ohio. President Trump back in his element. They're rallying a crowd of supporters. He was having a good time, too. Here's a headline for the New York Times. People love you, in quotes. For Trump, a welcome escape from the Capitol. Marjorie Clifton, former consultant in the Obama team and principal of Clifton Consulting. Chris Wilson, former pollster for the Cruz team, partner for and CEO of WPA Intelligence, a Republican polling firm. How you two doing? Good morning to both of you. This is what Peter Baker writes in the New York Times on screen. Every one of these people love you, sir, said the man wearing a T-shirt that said Trump won, deal with it. For a president who has not gotten a lot of love lately inside the Beltway, where they have definitely not yet dealt with it, hitting the road in recent days has been a political booster shot. How far does it go, Chris?
Well, it's no mistake he's going out on the road when there's an important vote being taken coming up before the Senate. I mean, it really is smart of him to remind the Republican members of the Senate how much Republican primary voters do like him and how much they still want Republicans to vote to repeal Obamacare. It's also smart to get outside of the Washington media environment where you have a lot of the process being driven by the Washington Post, the New York Times, and to be able to get away from that, it allows him to attack them, attack a useful foil in the media, and again, just take the story directly to the American people. And finally, I'd say the third most important is it's no mistake that he went to Ohio. There's an important Senate race coming up in Ohio where you've got Josh Mandel, who's actually led the incumbent senator in the last few polls coming out of there. And that gives him the ability to kind of rile up the crowd and take some credit for that. And it's important all the way around. And I think it's smart on his part.
I would just point out also, Chris, an excellent point you make there. Marjorie, this is Mahoning County. This is Youngstown, arguably one of the more Democratic hotspots in the entire state. And that place was packed last night.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, Trump knows how to do Trump. And I think what he has developed is a very different, almost third way in the country, because I think we've moved away from traditional Republican and Democratic politics into a little bit more of cultural warfare. And when you think about the kinds of people who are supporting him, they're those that are sort of anti-government, anti-media, and anything that feels institutional to them doesn't feel good. And so they're willing to sort of dismiss any of the conversations around Russia, around the election, around all of these questions that are out there, and frankly willing to listen to whatever he says repetitively and believe it. And so I think there is a camaraderie they feel, and him firing them up is very effective, not only for his gentle ego, but also, for people who do believe everybody else is trying to put it nicely.
Let me go back to Baker's article today. Again, his incoming communications director said the other day that the strategy was to let Mr. Trump be Mr. Trump. And for the last few days, the president has returned to the road to do just that. In other words, his message to Washington was clear. Deal with it. How's that going, Chris?
Well, I think, look, what he's trying to get away from is the process story. And the Washington media, again, loves a process story. They like to talk about the process of what's going on, why is it taking so long. And by him being able to tick through the items that allowed him to win the election, to get people in Youngstown, Ohio excited, and I would agree, I would suggest it's more about big. I mean, they're tired of big government and big influence and big labor unions and all the things that Donald Trump ran against and allowed him to win Democratic areas in states like Ohio. And to remind people what he stood for and what he ran on, and to be able to get outside of the process. Because let's face it, the process is slow and it's messy and these things take time. I mean, Obamacare didn't pass in the first 6 months or even the first year. And so I think to be able to get back and remind the people and go directly to them and say, these are the things we're going to do is, again, it's smart politics, it's smart communications.
Yeah. Marjorie, how do they deal with it?
Well, it's interesting. His strategy is not so much to talk directly to those members of Congress, but to get into their home territory and somewhat threaten them, saying, you know what, we're going to deal with them, meaning we're not going to vote for them if they don't follow me. So firing up that base against those senators who are not supportive of his health care legislation or not supportive of some of the strategies he's pushing, that's a pretty interesting and effective way. It's not necessarily collaborative with your own party, something different than we've seen before, but so is everything about Trump, which is what some people like.
Rob Portman's on the fence in this health care deal, right? Ohio senator, indeed. Just getting word, 2 o'clock this afternoon, on-camera briefing from the White House. Sarah Huckabee Sanders will be there. Marjorie, Chris, you're both gamers on that. Thank you very much for coming in today.
Have a good one.
Nice to see you. You bet.